Hare Krishna. Welcome back to our online Swadhyaya Reading Retreat Labs. So, to the last session, we have started with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 9, chapter number 5. So, we have completed till verse number 11. So, today we are going to start with verse number 12. So, now let me share my screen so that we can see the mind map and we can continue from there. Yes. So last time we have seen in this unit, in this chapter number 5, canto number 9, Durvāsā Muni's light sphere. So we have from the verse number 1 to 11, it was covered that how Ambarīṣa Mahārāja offering prayers to Sudarshana Chakra. And today we are going to see from verse number 12 to verse number 24, how Durvāsā Muni glorifying Ambarīṣa Mahārāja. Okay, so in this section, verse number 12 to 24, right? And so simultaneously, if you're planning for making notes, you can also prepare notes like this. I'm using an app called Notion.so. So I'm comfortable with this. Otherwise, there are so many apps. So here, if you see, I have the different section for different canto. This is the canto number 9. All the notes related to canto number 9, actually, I keep it here. So this is our Swadhyaya Retreat Labs or Reading Retreat Labs. So this is a virtual study group, and here I make all the notes which are related to this particular canto. So I follow a framework called DUA, that is a D-U-A, D for discovery. Here whatever I do not know for the first time I'm discovering, I just maintain it here. And U part, I cover all the understanding piece, like my reflections, what I understood after going through that particular chapter or particular segment of the entire canto. Right, and also I prepare some type questions like assertion region type of questions, like so wherever there is a because, wherever there is in the sentences because, therefore, so this will be very good input for preparing quizzes and in the upcoming days to understand, right, in a much better way. So this is assertion region type of question I prepare, and at the same time toward the end is applications, right? So DUA framework applications. What is the applications of that particular verse or particular Israeli practical applications, how we are going to practically apply that concept in our life, society, all, right? So this is a very nice framework which I have learned from the Bhakti Diksha at ISKCON. So I'm very much thankful to the entire my Bhakti Diksha devotees. So with this, now we will continue with to start with the verse number 12. So as usual, we'll not be reading the sloka and the meaning, word by word meaning. That will be covered on another lab that is called Sloka Recitation Lab. Translation. Sukadeva Goswami continued, when the king offered prayers to the Sudarshana Chakra and Lord Vishnu, because of his prayers, the Sudarshana Chakra became peaceful and stopped burning the Brahmana known as Durvāsā Muni. Moving to the next verse, verse number 13, translation. Durvāsā Muni, the greatly powered mystic, was indeed satisfied when freed from the fire of the Sudarshana Chakra. Thus, he praised the qualities of Mahārāja Ambarīṣa and offered him the highest benedictions. Verse number 14. Durvāsā Muni said, my dear king, today I have experienced the greatness of the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for although I have committed an offense, you have prayed for my good fortune. Moving to the next verse. For those who have achieved the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of the pure devotees, what is impossible to do, and what is impossible to give up. Verse number 16. What is impossible for the servants of the Lord, by the hearing of his holy name, one is purified. Verse number 17. O king, overlooking my offenses, you have saved my life. Thus, I am very much obliged to you because you are so merciful. Verse number 18. Expecting the return of Durvāsā Muni, the king had not taken his food. Therefore, when the sage returned, the king fell at his lotus feet, pleasing him in all respects, and fed him sumptuously. Verse number 19. Thus the king respectfully received Durvāsā Muni, who after eating varieties of palatable food was so satisfied that with great affection he requested the king to eat also, saying, "Please take your meal." Verse number 20. Durvāsā Muni said, I am very pleased with you, my dear king. At first I thought of you as an ordinary human being and accepted your hospitality. But later, I could understand by my own intelligence that you are the most exalted devotee of the Lord. Therefore, simply by seeing you, touching your feet, and talking with you, I have been pleased and have become obliged to you. Purport. It is said, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vijena Na Bujaya. Even a very intelligent man cannot understand the activities of a pure Vaishnava. Therefore, although Durvāsā Muni was a great mystic yogi, he first mistook Mahārāja Ambarīṣa for an ordinary human being and wanted to punish him. Such is the mistaken observation of a Vaishnava. When Durvāsā Muni was persecuted by the Sudarshana Chakra, however, his intelligence developed. Therefore, the word Atma Medhasa is used to indicate that by his personal experience, he would understand how great a Vaishnava the king was. When Durvāsā Muni was chased by the Sudarshana Chakra, he wanted to take shelter of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. And he was even able to go to the spiritual world, meet the personality of Godhead, and talk with him face to face. Yet he was unable to be this from the attack of the Sudarshana Chakra. Thus, he could understand the influence of a Vaishnava by personal experience. Durvāsā Muni was certainly a great yogi and a very learned Brahmana, but despite his being a real yogi, he was unable to understand the influence of a Vaishnava. Therefore, it is said, Vaishnavara Kriya Mudra Vigyena Bhujaya. Even the most learned person cannot understand the value of a Vaishnava. There is always a possibility for so called Jnanis and yogis to be mistaken when studying the character of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava can be understood by how much he is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the terms of his inconceivable activities. Verse number 21. All the blessed men in the heavenly planets will continuously chant about your spotless character at every moment, and the people of this world will also chant your glories continuously. Verse number 22. Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued, thus being satisfied in all respects, the great mystic yogi Durvāsā took permission and left, continuously glorifying the king. Through the skyways, he went to Brahmaloka, which is devoid of agnostics and dry philosophical speculators. Purport. Although Durvāsā Muni went back to Brahmaloka through the spaceways, he didn't need an airplane, for great mystic yogis can transport themselves from any planet to any other without any machine. There's a planet named Siddhaloka, whose inhabitants can go to any other planet because they naturally have all the perfection of yoga practice. Thus, Durvāsā Muni, the great mystic yogi, could go through the skyways to any planet, even to Brahmaloka. In Brahmaloka, everyone is self realized, and thus there is no need of philosophical speculation to come to the conclusion of the absolute truth. Durvāsā Muni's purpose in going to Brahmaloka was apparently to speak to the residents of Brahmaloka about how powerful a devotee is and how a devotee can surpass every living entity within this material world. The so-called Jnanis and yogis cannot compare to a devotee. Verse number 23. Durvāsā Muni had left the place of Mahārāja Ambarīṣa, and as long as he had not returned for one complete year, the king had fasted, maintaining himself simply by drinking water. Verse number 24. Translation. After 1 year, when Durvāsā Muni had returned, King Ambarīṣa sumptuously fed him all varieties of pure food, and then he himself also ate. When the king saw that the Brahmana Durvāsā had been released from the great danger of being burned, he could understand that by the grace of the Lord, he himself was also powerful, but he didn't take any credit. for everything had been done by the Lord purport. A devotee like Maharaja Ambarīṣa is certainly always busy in many activities. Of course, this material world is full of dangers that one has to meet, but a devotee, because of his full dependence on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is never disturbed. The vivid example is Maharaja Ambarish. He was the emperor of the entire world and had many duties to perform. And in the course of these duties, there are many disturbances created by persons like Durvāsā Muni, but the king tolerated everything patiently, depending fully on the mercy of the Lord. The Lord, however, is situated in everyone's heart. Sarvasya Chaham Pradasanivedam, and he manages things as he desires. Thus, although Maharaj Ambaris was faced with many disturbances, the Lord, being merciful to him, managed things so nicely that in the end, Durvāsā Muni and Maharaj Ambarish became great friends and parted cordially on the basis of Bhakti Yoga. After all, Durvāsā Muni was convinced of the power of Bhakti Yoga, although he himself was a great mystic yogi. Therefore, as stated by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 6.47, Yoginam api sarvesham madgatan antaratmanam sadhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mataha. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. Thus, it is a fact that a devotee is the topmost yogi, as proved in the dealings of Maharaj Ambarish with Durvāsā Muni. So we see here to summarize in one line, so from verse number means sloka verse 12 to verse number 24, how Durvāsā Muni is glorifying Ambarish Maharaj. So with this note, we will stop here. And in the next session, which will be the last session of this chapter, we will be covering from verse number 5 to verse number 28, where we'll be seeing how Maharaj Ambarish is renunciating. So that part will be covering the next segment, right? So we will stop here. Hare Krishna. Thanks for joining in. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.